Welcome back, everyone. On this episode, I am going to get these new frame rails that I got from Boiling Brothers into some epoxy primer. Now, I could leave these frame rails just bare steel, and then when I'm ready to weld on them, everything would be clean and ready to go. Well, I just don't know how long it's going to take for me to get these in the car and welded in, and by that time it might have surface rust because they're open to the elements, and I'd rather not have that happen. I figure it's better to get some epoxy primer on them now rather than do it later, where I have to be underneath the car painting these, or also sanding all the rust off, trying to make sure that they're clean. So these rails are clean steel right now. They need a little prep and degreasing, and then we were going to put some epoxy primer. This will also give me peace of mind for in the future, knowing that these rails have been epoxy primed and right from the factory, and I won't have any rust in the future. So let's take a look how I'm going to get this all done. First of all, I've got just lacquer thinner or acetone in my squirt bottle here, and I'm going to take a red Scotch-Brite pad, and I'm going to scuff these frame rails first. There's oil on these frame rails from just the manufacturer, the steel manufacturer, and it keeps it from rusting for them, so they can store it in a warehouse, bare steel, and they've got these oils on there so that they don't rust. Well, if I try to put epoxy primer on top of that, I'm just going to get fish eyes everywhere, and it's going to look terrible. So first thing you need to do is take a red Scotch-Brite pad and with some acetone and scuff this whole thing down. And it's really not scuffing it. What I'm doing is using it like you'd clean your shower, taking some acetone and scrubbing the grease off of the rails. So basically I'm bringing up all the grease right now, and then once I get all the grease brought up, and a lot of it's on the red Scotch-Brite pad, I come back through with the red shop rag, and I wipe all that grease that has come up and getting it off that top surface. Here again, just making sure that getting as much of this stuff off as I possibly can, so that when I put my epoxy primer down, it doesn't fisheye on me and it looks nice. So we'll just continue doing this for this rail, and flipping it over, doing the other side, making sure it's all clean on the other side as well. Doing this is a very important step, because a lot of good quality paint job or a long-lasting paint job is the prep of the job itself. If I didn't take time to scrub all these little nooks and crannies of grease off of this, wipe it all down, I could maybe get away with it, but it wouldn't be a good quality product, and it could fail in the future. So you just want to make sure that, if you're doing this at home, that you do a good thorough job. It takes a long time. Obviously I've got this sped up, but this took a good while, and so don't shortchange yourself and do a half-ass job. Make sure you did a good job, and you go through the process of cleaning and doing a good prep job on it. So we're going to go ahead and do the same thing to the other frame rail. Start with a red Scotch-Brite pad and prep it up. I don't know if you can see on that red Scotch-Brite pad before I grabbed it how greasy it was. I started with a nice red one. It's a little black now, so that's because that Scotch-Brite pad has been picking up that grease, sucking it in, and then scrubbing more off of it. So make sure you do a good job scrubbing it, and then also taking that shop rag and wiping any of the excess up. So I ran out of acetone in my little squirt bottle there, and so I need a refill. I'm not going lightly with the acetone. I'm using it very generously. That acetone there again brings all that grease and everything up, so make sure you use what you need to use and stay tidy when you're doing it. Yeah, put your stuff away. Anyway, but back to cleaning the rails. Yeah, so make sure you use a lot of acetone on this, or lacquer thinner, whatever your cleaner is, to make sure you're getting all that grease off of the frame rails. It's super important. Can't stress it enough. Something also worth mentioning here, since you're using a lot of lacquer thinner or acetone, you want to make sure that you have good ventilation. I'm doing this in my garage. My garage door's shut, as you can see, but I do have a window on the other end of the garage that is open, and I do have a fan blowing pretty decently inside there, so it's not very stinky. Um, Ventilation is important, especially if you have like a gas water heater inside the garage. You always want to make sure that you have good ventilation so that you don't have any oopsie daisies of like an explosion or anything like that. So just always be cautious with that. Alright, so I'm switching over now to a degreaser. I've scrubbed all the rust off the, excuse me, I've scrubbed all the oils off of the surface now. And I've got probably good 90% of it all off. But there's still some more, and so I'm going to take this degreaser. And the way degreaser works is you're able to spray it on, and the degreaser actually lifts the lifts the oil and brings it to the surface. And then when it's up at the surface while it's wet, you're able to wipe off all that oil and everything. So with the degreaser, it's important to spray it on, not wipe it on, but spray it on, allow that oil to rise to the top, and then take a clean rag and wipe all that oil off of the part that you're working on. I always like to go through twice. First one is I wipe it all off, and the degreaser stays a little bit, it keeps a film on there, and so when you wipe it off the first swipe, the majority of it all comes off, but I like to take another clean rag after that and then wipe it again, and it wipes the rail dry, or your part dry, and so you don't have any of that degreaser left over, and you know that all that oil has been brought to the surface and has been wiped off. So degreaser is a very important step. I actually will do the degreaser one more time before I paint the rails. Now, if you also noticed, I have rubber gloves on. The rubber gloves are to keep my hands protected from these chemicals. A lot of these chemicals are not good for you to be bathing your hands in. But also, I put the rubber gloves on so I can touch the part, and I will not get any of my oils from my fingers all over this rail again, because you can put more oil down into the product once you've degreased it if you don't have gloves. Okay, let's mix some primer. I like to put safety gloves on because I don't like getting paint all over my hands. Alright, got my cup here. It's got measurements on the side, 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 4 to 1. I'm going to use the 2 to 1 because that's what the mix ratio is for this primer. So I already pre-shook this on a paint shaker, so this primer is mixed up and ready to go. Yep, it's a good mix there. Before I pour it into the cup, I'm going to put a hole in the side here, just so where I pour it out, it can drain back into the can from the lid, and that way your lid doesn't make a big mess. Okay, now the cup has a 2-to-1 mix ratio, 3-to-1 mix ratio, 4-to-1 mix ratio on the side. This primer calls for a 2-to-1 mix ratio, so we're going to use that one. It's all numbered here, so it's backwards on the outside, but on the inside it has regular numbers. We're going to pour this up to 3, because I think I'll use about a half a cup to primer these frame rails, so let's see how this goes. There's our 3 right there. And then since I have my gloves on, I'll just do that. And I've got some paper towels, clean off the side so it doesn't get everywhere. And I clean my rim out. And I push it all the way. I push them all back into that hole that I created. That way it drains back into the can. 1, I don't have a dirty lip inside here, and 2, I'm saving material. And have a little bit more for next time. This is why I wear gloves. Now I put in the hardener. I went up to 3 with the paint on the line, and so there's a second 3 because I'm on the 2-to-1 mix ratio. So I went 3 on this line. The hardener will get poured to the 3 right there on that line. Right there. Now we gotta mix it up. I like to use a steel paddle and not a wood one. Wood, what happens is the wood will actually absorb the catalyst or the hardener. And so you won't get the exact mix ratio as it calls for. Now, is it that drastic? No, it's not. But to some people, it's a very crucial step. So, just been doing this for so long, I just try to follow all the proper procedures when I can. I don't always do it, but when I do, I try. It's mixed up pretty good. Clean the paddle off. Have a bunch of paint on it next time. And this paint paddle actually has mixed numbers on it as well. so you can mix with the stick. Off my cup, I got a little paint on there, and then if you noticed I didn't strain it, the PPS cups have a built-in strainer, and so as you spray, chunks will go through there. So that way you don't have to pre-strain your mix or mix it in a different cup and then pour it in here. It's got a strainer built into the cap. So we'll make sure that's good. Snap that in place, tighten the lid, and then I also want to make sure this is on there. And if you want to kind of remix one more time or want to agitate the mixture in there, you have these caps that they provide you, and you can just shake up your primer and you're ready to go. When you're ready to spray, you can just take that cap right off and attach your gun. We're ready to spray. So, all right, I'm not ready to spray, so we're going to do this for a minute. Now the pot life on this primer is 4 to 6 hours, so you have 4 to 6 hours depending on the temperature outside to spray this material before it starts getting hard inside the cup. So just keep that in mind if you're trying to do something else. 4 to 6 hours. Okay, well, let's get in the spray booth and get painting. So I've made a paint booth in my garage. It's all makeshift, as you can see. I'm going to do another video to show you how I put this all together. I have another video that I'm going to come up with at the same time about the spray gun I used. It's very informative, and I think you guys will find it very interesting. But I'll show you how I did the spray booth and all that stuff. But here again, I am degreasing those frame rails now, getting one last wipe down on them from any contaminants that got on there overnight, any fingerprints I might have put on them from moving them around. There again, finger oils can get on the frame rails and cause rust underneath the paint, and so you want to make sure you get those all off. I'm using the latex gloves to protect my hands from the degreasing chemicals, and also to keep those oils from my fingers off of the frame rails, the clean material that I have. Once I get that all done, I'm going to go ahead and start spraying the frame rails. Alright, let's get the fan turned on and let's get the spray gun out. First thing I'm going to do is adjust my air pressure, and then I'm going to adjust my fan pattern. I want to make sure that it's just wide enough for the rails that I'm going to paint. And then as I adjust my fan pattern, wide or narrow, my air pressure will change with that, so I'll need to adjust the air pressure accordingly as I adjust my fan pattern. A little quick spray out test on the paper, and then we go ahead and blow off the frame rails. Any lingering dirt that's on top of them, just getting rid of that. and then we'll go ahead and start shooting some primer on top of these. Spraying these, I'm doing a couple things. One, I'm staying an even distance away from the frame rail and staying with the contour of the frame rail. And then two, wherever I paint, I'm trying to overlap by 50% on every pass I make. So if you see me put a coat on top, I'm going to put another coat on top 50% over. That way your coverage is even everywhere, and you get a good even coat on the frame rails when you're all said and done. Getting underneath is one of the trickier things, but with my gun setup, you're supposed to be able to turn this gun upside down, and you should be able to primer upside down with the type of gun that I'm using. Here again, I'll go over that in my next video and show you what I'm talking about. One of the harder things to do in this cramped spray booth of mine is actually get around. You can see here I'm on my knees. I have no good way to hang these and have a lot of space, so I gotta do my best to paint in the tight environment that I am and make sure that I get good coverage on the frame rails, but also try not to bump into my frame rail behind me as I am painting this other frame rail. And so kind of being aware of my space and making sure that I am cautious with every movement that I make here. So I'm having a little bit of an issue with my gun. Here again, I didn't purge all the air out of my primer gun, and so right now what I'm doing is I'm actually purging air out of the primer bag right now. Once I got the air purged out of my primer gun, I was able to hook it back up and spray the frame rail underneath with the gun upside down. You can see how much overspray it put out. It worked really well. Until I lost power because I had too many things running in the garage. It's a little cold in the garage, so I had a heater going, and I also had my air compressor running, of course, to use my spray gun. And so with all that, it kicked my breaker, and I had to pause for a moment and then reset everything, get my materials back going, and then I was able to start painting again. Alright, where did I leave off? Oh yes, underneath. So I will start on the side and continue on. There again, 50% overlap, and 50% overlap isn't too much. I'm able to do the face, and then I will do the top corner of the frame rail, and then I'll switch over to the other top corner of the frame rail. So that is my first coat of primer on this, and everything looks pretty good. So we're just gonna let it set for a while and then come back at it and put another coat on. A lot of times you can get away with just one coat, but I wanted to make sure to put 2 coats on this. Here we go with the second coat, and I've got about a half a cup of primer left, which is perfect for doing a second coat. Alright, so this is me getting my game face on, getting ready to put another coat on, just coming up with a game plan of how I'm going to do it. Now that I know, it's time to execute. Let's go. So we're going to follow the same process before. Stay with the frame rails a nice distance away, and then overlapping 50%. So you don't have to live through everything in slow-mo again. We are going to speed this up so that this goes a little quicker this time. But you get the gist. You can see the technique and how it all goes. And then just a side note here, that fan really pulls the overspray out. You can see how much overspray is in there. And then after just a few minutes, it really dies down. I had a fan at the top blowing air in, and then that little fan pulling air out. Now that everything's primered, let's take a look at how it turned out. Looks like a nice shiny product to me. Good coverage. I didn't get any runs or drips on this. Epoxy primer is pretty forgiving if you use the right tip setup. But yeah, turned out nice. Good even coat. 2 coats on there. Good and rust resistant now. I'm happy with it. I hope you guys enjoyed this and learned something from it. To come is actually getting these frame rails installed in the car next. I'm really excited. Here again, I don't know when it's going to be exactly, how long I'm going to have until I actually start putting them in. That's why we primered these rails, so they don't rust in the meantime. But you know, for now, they're in great shape. So like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please share with a friend, and maybe somebody else can learn from this. If you guys got any comments, please comment down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Let me know if you guys want to see anything in particular. I'll try to get that up for you. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and I appreciate you all for watching. You guys have a great day and stay safe out there, alright?